Hello, my name is Marcus. I'm the compiler of a collection of therapy quotes entitled 1001 Windmills of the Mind. A collection of quotes taken from what's often called the psychodynamic or the psychoanalytic perspective, which long ago, as I understand it, was referred to by some as philosophical medicine or narrative medicine, helping one to get back their golden ball, as discussed in part 1. I was just in the middle of this video. I had a battery issue, and so I had to, it suddenly shut out on me. So I'm just going to launch right in here and make this part 2 as a continuation of where we left off in the part 1. So part 1 sort of lays some of the build-up groundwork to what we're going to be talking about here in part 2. So this will be part 2 of TQ 2698. So yeah, we have 2,698 TQ quotes here to 1001 Windmills of the Mind, therapy quotes, or basically advanced self-help quotes. So these are advanced self-help quotes that sort of are like a, oops, oh hang on, what's going on here? Something's beeping on me here. Uh-oh. This is another battery issue here. Let me check the battery here. 5%. It's charging. See, I gotta, now with the low battery, I gotta stay here to make sure it charges while I'm speaking. Something beeped on me here. Hopefully part 1 got recorded. Oh my god, if by chance there's no part 1. I think there is. Anyways, the quotes are posted below. I'm pretty sure there's going to be a part. I'm sure you'll be able to see part 1. Let's see, is we still charging here? 5%. So I'm assuming part 1's available. You'll hear some of the build-up to this part 2. If not, the quotes are posted below. So at the end of part 1, at the point where the video cut out, I was talking about the theory. Again, this is all theory, ballpark approximations, invitations for mutual exploration, clues, being a detective here, no set perfect answer here. My disclaimer, I'm not a shrink and all this, discussing the quotes. Each person the theory is we want to weave a basket of consciousness called building the ego, and with that level of conscious understanding, then our feelings can come back into ourselves. So the trauma is the baby loses his golden ball, his feelings, and we spend the rest of our lives trying to get it back, kind of thing. Okay? So that was also discussed in part 1. So we talked about repetition compulsion, so let me just directly continue. In the beginning, babies, we're talking about attachment trauma, relational trauma, interpersonal trauma, and how to heal from this, because when there is a trauma like that, the person is afraid to love life, afraid to enjoy the present. They're going to live in the past, okay, transfer the emotional pain of the past into the present, replay and recreate the past, hoping to undo the past, change the past. Doesn't make sense, because the present isn't the past, but the babies, but the traumatized brain early on doesn't understand time, and that's what's driving all this. So that's why we need consciousness here. I try not to get anybody in the camera, but once in a while I might have by accident. Yeah, I'm gonna have a light. Hopefully this battery will charge before the lighting goes out on me here. Where were we? Okay. In the beginning, the baby's in the uterus. He has paradise. All is good. He needs extended paradise. If it's not available, the child might think, that's the theory, that he feels that there's something wrong with him, he's defective, if he didn't get his paradise. False belief, but if he's in pain, not getting his needs met, where's his paradise? And him not knowing that the mother has a mind and he has a mind, and it's just him there, and he's in pain, is there something wrong with him? And then there's a few added points to this. So in the beginning, all babies may begin with some kind of mindset that there's something wrong with them. But if the mother's misattuned and malattuned to the baby's needs and feelings and all this, at some point prior to 18 months, if it gets to a point, in the cases of what they call a strain trauma with the mother, so, trying to get that spot right. Going to people, okay. Then he's gonna do a thing called projection. He won't admit his self-concept anymore. It's too painful to have his tenderness, his feeling self, his unmet knowing, his unmet needs, his feelings. That whole realm of the feeling self, the psychological self, the emotional self, it's just too painful to admit that. So he'll make some kind of existential conclusion that he'll deny it, but when it's denied, it's projected. So it's projected to help him think that it's not, that it's within. A mechanism known as projection. So the mindset later on will be that others are okay. He's referring to his own feeling of feeling not okay, but he can't know it, so he says it outwardly. So projection is what we do to not know that it's within. By the way, the healing journey is to regard our projections as a mirror to know that it's within. Projection is actually the means of bringing repressed material to consciousness. And so until he makes that conscious, until he looks into the mirror, right, until he makes that self-ownership kind of thing, in the meantime he's gonna blame it. He's gonna say others are no good, talking about himself. Now all the baby has left, if he loses that, if he loses his identity like that, all he has left is the archaic. Yeah, there's no. Oh yeah, I got the issue with the song. I love doing. I love this hotel. It's a wonderful hotel. Very nice staff here. It's very clean and spiffy. It's very kind of elegant and pretty in a way. And one issue is this sliver where I can do my video, where they let me do my video. There's no AC here. For some reason, the AC doesn't reach this little corner here. So you don't see it, but I'm baking right now. It's a sauna in here. And now, because of the battery, I gotta keep this plugged in. Let's see. Hold on, let me double check. Okay, it's charging 9%. Okay, good. So it's working. So it's charging. So you're gonna see me sweating here. Sorry about that. It doesn't look great. So the quotes are postable below. And my disclaimer, once again, I'm not a shrink. I'm not a professor. I'm the compiler of the quotes, discussing it and trying to learn it, and so on. So my full disclaimer is in part 1. Let's forget about this. If the child feels so much pain with the mother, and he has to come out, and he has to take refuge in the old belief that when he was in the uterus, he thought he was a little god back there. That's called narcissism, grandiosity, egocentricity, infantile megalomania, glorified self, idealized self, whatever phrases different shrinks come up with. He's going to take refuge in that old belief, and he'll search for it, and he'll believe it's it. So that's called narcissism. When a people think, the mindset of the baby, the theory is that it's just, oh, yeah, hi. Oh, they're waving on me. Okay, I thought this was tinted. How can they see me? I guess they can still see through it. You're gonna see me distracted. I'm sort of on there's a path, there's a walkway right beside me here. So you might see me, you might see some. Okay, let's keep going here. So nobody's presented the theory that when the baby's in the uterus, that he understands he's a little person inside his mother who's another little person. There's two separate people there. He hasn't reached to that place yet. In the beginning, he thinks it's only him in there. Everything's for him. Everything serves him. The mother may be like a part of him or an extension of him, or it's just there for him. So that's called a primary narcissism or infantile megalomania. Now, he's in a blissful state. He's got his feelings. He feels powerful. He's floating around. Oceanic feeling, oceanic bliss, oceanic oneness, one with the powerful mother. So in the beginning, he has this egocentricity, let's say. That dissipates when he's loved. But if he's not loved, he's going to revert back to it and cling to it and search for it. And the baby has a natural kind of blissful feeling with the oneness of the mother. But later on, when a person searches for that, it's the quest for something to trick that. So they'll use things to do that, and hence the issue of the narcissistic phenomena being named after the little white flower known as the narcissus flower, which gives people illusionary kind of effects. So if the child's traumatized and he's got to reject his soul, so to speak, outwardly, or see it outwardly and deny it, his self-identity will be the old grandiosity called egocentricity, etc. So his normal ego is damaged. He's got to revert to the egocentricity attitude. Okay. So that's a very desperate case scenario for a child, to have the mindset of I'm okay, you're not okay. Again, when he says you're not okay, he's talking about himself, but he can't know it. He projects himself onto others. So he's talking about himself projected out to not know that it's within. So he's going to keep on doing that until he knows that the negative opinions he has about others, he has it about himself in relation to what he felt about himself in relation to the mother, but he's identified with the aggressive mother, and in repetition compulsion. Okay, so in part one we talked about a record. Oh yeah, the record. Let me assume that somebody heard part one and they understand the idea of the record. It's the cry for love. Baby wanted love, mother said no. It's pain. Clicks in the repetition compulsion. Baby doesn't understand time. Wants to get mother's love. Still in that place. The trauma clicked in, the repetition compulsion still in the place. The mother needs love, not. Okay, that's like creating a record. In every new situation, we orchestrate that with others as stand-ins for the past needing love. So, in the stinger, now there's two forms this takes place. The way the reenactment of the trauma with the mother takes place, it takes two forms, pardon me. One form is the stinger form, called identification with the aggressor, negative magic gesture, etc. And the other one is the maybe a more benign one, but also still neurotic, called direct. So we're talking about the more painful one, the stinger one here. So if the child has to end up with the mindset of I'm okay, you're not okay, his emotional development got derailed. He couldn't stay on the track of I'm not okay, you're okay, to get to I'm okay, you're okay. Once he says I'm pseudo okay and his baby in his uterus okay, and you're not okay, meaning him, things are really derailed like that, and he's stuck there. So it's more traumatic than that. So the cry for love is more convoluted, because when he replays the record, so in the nursery, baby says, mother, I need love. Mother, for whatever reason, doesn't get it, it's a tune, malotune, not around. For whatever reason, connection's not there, mother frustrated. Whatever reason, she's not emotionally available. For whatever reason, okay, mother says no, baby feels shamed by this. From the shame, he squelches his feelings and needs. It gets repressed, recorded into the non-reporting brain, and the memories there of that enter repetition compulsion. No time, play it again. But there is time. So in the time, they're going to play it again by doing a staging thing in the present. So when a stinger does it, a person with a stinger personality pattern does it. Again, trauma before 18 months is going to lead to one of the stinger personality patterns: bully pattern, Iago pattern, narcissistic pattern, lower functioning BPD pattern, and a few other kind of patterns in that area. So in the present, to replay that scene with the mother, in the present, what they do is, the record says mother shamed them, but they're going to see them onto others. So they'll find non-threatening substitute others to represent them. They're going to play the role of the shaming mother that shamed them. So when they replay the record, they're going to shame themselves. But where is themselves? They've already projected themselves in their template onto others. So they're going to shame others. That's them replaying the record of how the mother shamed them. So This is called a negative magic gesture. This cry for love is so convoluted that really shaming others to replay how the mother shamed them, is that going to take them back in a time machine to get the love that they needed? And it's not going to work. So nobody's making sense in this area, right? Bergler once says it like this. He said, when a person with a distinct personality pattern shames others, it's as if maybe, hey, mother in the mind, you wanted me to be one with you because you had a cry for love, so I was one with you. Now I'm just like you. I'm showing you what you did to me, to give you empathy and to give you oneness. Well, here it is. I'm going to treat others the way you treated me. Do you feel seen? Will you change your ways? That's another distraction. When this battery charges up, I'll find a. That's how we do it. This is a new thing for, yeah, it's charging quickly. Look at that, 15%. I started with 0 or 1, now it's 15%. That's great. I bought this little battery booster thing, and you plug it in, it keeps your thing charged. But in part 1, I had some guy yapping on the phone beside me, so I moved away, and I forgot about the battery issue, and then the battery shut down on me. Luckily, I think I caught it just in time, so it's safe. Yeah, the lighting's not too good here, is it? I can't really do much. If I do it like this. So another feature about distinct personality patterns. So number 1, in the present, they're going to treat others the way their mother treated them. That's them playing the record of how the mother treated them. When there's trauma, we create a record and we replay it, repeat it again and again, thinking we're still in the past, waiting for mother's love. The baby needs mother's love to resume development to his I'm okay, you're okay status of the psychological birth, of normal development, where joy can be there. And in normal development, joy can run the console. Okay? If joy runs the console, they enjoy the present, they love life. The ego is there, and through the ego, they know their true self. They express their true self through the ego, and that expression of their true self is a normal pleasure. Okay? And that's an act of love. So everything is love or a cry for love. If the baby's traumatized, he's in this cry for love mode. The cry for love takes 2 forms. When they shame others to replay how the mother shamed them, they're playing the record that they had this cry for love for the mother. But when they replay it, they don't want to live it directly. It's too painful. So they identify with the aggressor and communicate it that way and say, hey, you, innocent you. And you're going to say, ouch. Well, when I was a baby, I said, ouch. You had a cry for love now. So they're recreating this whole thing in the present. Now, anybody on the receiving end, anybody on the receiving end of this, receiving end of that, is not going to have that empathy for the person because they're in pain by that. So it's not going to work. So the idea is that distinct personality patterns, the negativity they have towards others is A, to know that joy and sadness are zooped away. B, to know that they've identified with the aggressor. And to see an analogy of what happened in the nursery. To face the greatest hurt of all, mother failed me. The truth will upset you free. The mother didn't provide a secure attachment style. Now we become a detective. Why? She had a record. Maybe she had a record. And she was replaying her trauma, casting the role of her baby as her, shaming the baby to replay how she had been shamed by her mother. Some others use the baby for comfort, to parentify the baby. Some others see their crying baby as thinking that the baby doesn't like them. So we got to understand the mother in order to heal. So forgive your parents, heal yourself. The title of one book. But the sequel is the better book, entitled Understanding Your Puzzling Emotions Hidden in Plain Sight. Barry Groskop, I think. We have a few quotes from that book there, those two books. Speaking here. Let's see how's the battery. Let's see. Look at that, 18%. Oh, this is great. This is charging up quickly. Well, that's awesome. Okay, I think in about 15 minutes I should be able to. Uh-oh. What's going on here? Charging. Still charging. Okay. Laptop is still charging. Okay, good. So when this thing finally charges, I'll go to a place where there's better light and some AC. Because I'm baking here and there's no light, right? I feel awkward trying to explain this in part 2 with the thought that maybe someone didn't listen to part 1. Because if you listen to part 2 without part 1, you go, what's this guy talking about? So my hope is that someone does listen to part 1 or any of the other videos. Some of this will make sense. Okay, again, just quickly, every neurotic is a music enthusiast, but he only has one record. He carries this one record with him everywhere he goes. Every time he sees a record player with never-ending fiery ardor, he spins off that record. So the record is the cry for love. It's one tune. Everything's love or a cry for love, and trauma is the cry for love. But when they cry for love, they put others in the role of them. They identify with the aggressor, make them cry for love as a proxy for them crying for love because they can't feel it. So they externalize and get others to play them because they can't know it anymore with them because the mother was too abusive, emotionally abusive. So another feature. So of the various stinger personality patterns in this area, whichever stinger personality pattern develops in the trauma before 18 months, key developmental phase there, 18 months. Later on, their philosophy in life might come from that realm. Now, in that realm, the baby projected his rage and oral greed onto the mother, created an image of the mother as a hungry monster that wants to eat him. He's going to act like that image, his own image, and have a philosophy stemming source from that, which says, well, it's either my greed or your greed. If I'm not greedy, then my mother's going to gobble me up. I don't want, so I can't. So it's they have this barbaric, sort of so-called quote-unquote barbaric, traumatized caveman mentality. So that's why we're homotraumacus. Babies shouldn't be traumatized because we're thinking really in a trouble. It's called perverse thinking. So most shrinks call it perverse thinking. It's a very distorted, aberrant thinking. There's something really wrong. Okay, when we played the song called Rise by the rock band Harlequin, he says, oh yeah, this envy thinking, all this envy, that's really something wrong. See, maybe that's why Mr. Bowen thinks in the world, he projects his nature onto nature. See, he projects his traumatic mind onto the world. Maybe that's why he has a negative philosophy of life. So I'm gonna keep his quotes to a bare minimum today. If he says something practical that's helpful, I might include it, but generally, I'm kind of limiting myself here. Yeah, my current thought is, Bowen is a guy. Carl Sagan has this clip. We play a speech by Carl Sagan. We project our traumatized mind as a map and see the world through that lens. And if a person has a traumatized mind, they'll have a negative attitude through that lens of that. They don't know what a healthy attitude is. So I think this Bowen guy was sort of in that category. And his followers who are drawn to it, maybe sort of in that area as well. yeah, so I'm gonna put some of these self-help gurus on the couch here and try to amateur analyze some of these guys. Right? I'm not a shrink. I'm not a professor. Look for the psychological message. Look for the psychological message. Sanford says this: whenever there's a story, just look for the psychological message. Never mind the superficial details of something's this or that. Look for the psychological message. Can I get some more light here? How's that? I'm seeing a very kind of no light. I'm not getting any light around. Let's see. What is it now? 20, 22. That's not enough. What if I try this? Is that better? The light? Oh yeah, I should have waited until I charged it before starting part 2. I just jumped right in. When part 1 ended, I just launched right into part 2. I should have waited until the battery charged up. Yeah, I forgot about that. So what you just heard is an example of my anxiety, right? I have been analyzed myself, so my anxiety is coming through with these kind of little sidebars and ums and ahs and stops and starts and self-corrections and little tangents and forgetting where I was. That's part of my anxiety. It's a work in progress. It's a work in progress. I think on some level there's this unconscious part of me that remembers, that's trying to make me aware of myself, of how I wasn't hurt as a child. So maybe there's all this detours. Well, maybe I'm replaying my childhood, using the fantasy audience, projecting my unlistening parents to the fantasy audience, and maybe I'm kind of recreating something in myself. Well, my fantasy audience is not hearing me. I'll try again and say this, and maybe it's something like that. I feel like it's something in that realm, and that's why my videos are getting a little bit longer, to bring this to my attention. Why are my videos getting longer? Maybe it's for me to, oops. Uh-oh. There's people sitting just beside me there. Hopefully they're gonna be quiet. Let's see. Okay, still plugged in, all right. Let's go back to the record then. If the child can hold on to his soul, his self-concept, even though it's defective, even though he says, I'm not okay, you're okay, but he can still hold on to it post 18 months. But he's traumatized between 18 months and 36 months. Those are your pleasers and the clingers and the caretakers, and I'm not okay, you're okay, saving others, helping others. So when they replay the record, they cast others into the role of rejecting mother, see them in that way, interact with them with that belief. That puts a kind of pull or a pressure on people to reject them. They want to make it happen by being difficult, passive-aggressive, giving people impossible tests, being annoying in some little way, goad them or prod them to reject them. That's what's on the record. Mother rejected them. So they just go through life coaxing others to reject them. They're not hurting others, they're just getting others to reject them. Whereas the stingers, they can't do the direct thing. They've identified with the aggressor, and others can play them, and they'll play the mother, shaming them. So it's more perverse. It's more disturbed and perverse that way. And the stingers, by the way, you know, they always say things, they'll very often, it seems, say things like, I hate weakness, I hate vulnerability, I hate sensitivity. Seen one tree, seen them all. Like anything to do with their feeling around trust, you're a fool, like those kinds of the quote-unquote more human side of being human and the feeling, they hate all of it because the mother rejected it in them. They've identified with that and reject that generally. So usually the stinger personality patterns have the so-called toxic masculinity added to, not just in men, it's in women as well. Nothing to do with that. Let's see. I'm kind of eager for this thing to charge up so I can, 26, so I can find some light and some AC. I guess I could hit the pause button and just wait it out that way, right? That's a thought, right? If the child can't hold a "I'm not okay, you're okay," but he's frozen before getting to "I'm okay, you're okay," normal development, then he just coaxes others to reject them because that's what's on the record. Mother rejected them. Now when the stingers replay the record, they play the role of the rejecting mother, find others to stand in for them, for their rejected self, reject others, meaning the mother rejected them. They play the rejecting mother who rejected them, but they can't feel that. So to mask it, they'll see themselves outwardly, shame others to replay how the mother had shamed them. It doesn't heal anything. They just mask over the pain by distracting themselves, by identifying with the aggressor. Now the act of doing this is addictive because, so their hate and grandiosity is addictive because the baby got immense pain, he got immense endorphins. The only way to deal with that pain is a high level of endorphins, the numbing thing. Back to Emily Dickinson, there's a pain so utter, it swallows substance up. His soul, his feeling self, his golden ball got swallowed up, down, repressed down in the well. And then one goes in a swoon. That's the endorphins, the numbing thing. The baby doesn't have memories of having enough love to soothe himself later on. Whenever he wants to be true to himself, it's too much pain, I want the endorphins. To get the endorphins, they got to be the aggressor. So that's why it's kind of addictive. So their healing journey maybe needs an extra step to detox from that and to wean themselves off of that, to get back on track and accept that they're defective, that they feel defective and shamed by the mother. That really deep down inside, they feel no good, and they gotta somehow accept that others need to be seen as good, that they're gonna develop somehow. That's a very hard thing to do, you see. Well, oddly enough, to my surprise, it's kind of quiet now around here. It's very funny, I can come here on a Monday mid-afternoon, it might be packed, and on a time when it should be busy, it's kind of quiet here. Oh, look at that. Well, I'm looking forward to when the battery, you know, it's fun. Last time I was here, I was able to use the living room area. It was kind of fun, right? In the captain's, in the Star Trek captain's chair. They've got like a chair that reminds me of them. Let's see, hold on a second. 29, oh, it's still pretty slow, It's almost a third, okay. So back to the stingers again. You see, this Bowen guy who talks about triangles and scapegoating, he thinks it's for everybody. No, that's because his trauma is in that area. He doesn't understand. He doesn't believe that others don't have that. That's why his analyst didn't certify him to be a shrink. You see, like an analytic shrink or a talking therapy shrink, because he didn't believe that. He was really stuck in the stinger category place of the grandiosity. Not everybody's traumatized before 18 months. So whatever the numbers are, I don't know, but not everybody's traumatized before 18 months. A lot of children are traumatized between 18 months and 36 months. And they still accept the quote-unquote more human side of being human. So empathy, have love, care, tenderness, affection, empathy, reparation, they have partially entered the psychological picture, and they want to resume development. So here's another difference between the clingers and the stingers. Clingers can make I statements. Clingers, caretakers, pleasers, they're willing and they want to make I statements because they want to resume development because they're still on track. The track is, I'm not okay, you're okay, get it too, I'm okay, you're okay. They're still on track. The stingers, it's derailed, so to speak. They say, forget that. I'll take refuge in the fake grandiosity of the little infantile God thing, and you're not okay. It's way more derailed. They're off the tracks, and they don't want to get on the track anymore, usually. They say, oh, hell, forget that. It's too painful. They don't have enough love memories for that. They're so cynical and angry about it. They don't, and you can't treat them nicely because they'll have contempt for it. They have to be conscious themselves. Right? See, no one can make up for that kind of thing because they'll reject it because it's too triggering. That's why stingers don't want feedback. They don't want therapy. It's too triggering. It's up to the stingers to read and be aware and self-reflect. And clingers often enable them, so it doesn't help them, kind of thing, right? So the stingers have to do it on their own terms and read the material themselves. And I don't know. We have one quote here about how when we reflect on ourselves, that can be, or very often it can be, or it could be, or may be a therapeutic turning point. So each person has to find their own reflections, and which one of those reflections, and maybe one of those reflections, will be a therapeutic turning point. So it's the consciousness that our own consciousness that does it. And the stingers won't take consciousness or ideas from others. If it's an important idea, they'll have to reject it, because to accept an idea from others. Yeah, that's why maybe Bowman's followers are similar. Maybe there's an exception. Maybe the only time a stinger can accept feedback from it, if it's from another stinger. Maybe that's the mild exception. But they hate the clingers. Oh my God, stingers hate clingers because clingers show the emotionality a little bit openly. They're still childlike. They hate all that. Their song is Get Over It, that annoying song Get Over It. So in that song Get Over It, it's a disturbing song actually, lyrically wise. Because the protagonist in the song is saying that when they were a baby, they were crying and crying and crying, and the whole time the mother was saying, get over it, stop it, what do you want, baby? I don't know what you want, get over, stop crying, stop crying. Okay, baby identified with the aggressor. To communicate that, the protagonist in the song is telling others, if you have feelings and you're crying, well, get over it, stop it, stop it. They're imitating the mother. The mother's saying, what do you want, baby? Get over it, get over it. So the stingers will often hate vulnerability or feelings in others because it's too triggering. It reminds them of what happened to them, so they hate it. Because the mother hated it in them, they've identified with the hating mother. Repetition compulsion. Okay, so stingers will often have a very negative, contemptuous attitude towards the more quote-unquote human side of being human. Trust, affection, tenderness, being an elder or contributing or sharing. These kind of more reparation, apology, regret, empathy, these kind of quote-unquote more human side of being human. Oh my God, they hate all that. They'll say you're a fool, they'll be cynical about it, because that realm, that feeling self realm was shamed in them. They've identified with the shamer. To stay safe with the shamer, they got to shame the feeling realm to stay safe with the mother who shamed them. It's called identification with the aggressor. To stay safe, they got to act like the mother. Mother shamed them, they got to, mother hated their goodness, so they hate goodness. Mother hated their feelings, they hate feelings. Okay, so envy's there, by the way. So the stinger personality patterns, what are the driving emotions is envy, hatred of the good. The baby interpreted that the mother hated his goodness. To stay safe with the mother who hated his goodness, he's got to hate goodness. So he goes through life hating goodness. That's called envy, hatred of the good. That's how he feels safe. in that role, it's called Schadenfreude, because the mother got some pleasure by shaming the child, discharging her hate on the child. She got some kind of stable response from the child, so she felt some pleasure. Later on, that's called Schadenfreude. So the main emotions for the stinger personality patterns are hate, greed, envy, spite, vindictiveness, Schadenfreude. The grandiosity is kind of, the search for grandiosity is constant. So cynicism is constant, dark humor is constant, and all this. Now, the stingers don't have the psychic structure to mourn losses, so they won't admit loss. That's called denial. No loss. Okay. To fuel that, they do contemptuous sour grapes. Didn't need you anyways. Okay? So that inflates the grandiosity. They call that a fiery victory, that they didn't have to accept the loss. And there are a few other points in there. So in other words, love, empathy, the more quote-unquote human side of being human feelings haven't really fully entered the psychological picture. So remember, joy and sadness get zooped away. It's mainly anger at the console. Also with the stinger personality patterns, the injustice collecting, the grievance collecting, the entitlement that the world owes them, this whole thing. So they feel they're an exception, they're special, these kinds of things. The grandiosity entitlement is so set in there, they don't entertain the idea that yes, it's not my fault that my mother traumatized me, but you know, it's my life, it's my duty to heal myself. They're just too angry at that. They're just too bitter at that. Why should I heal no, the world owes me, mother owes me. They're just too angry in that area. The stinger personality patterns have an immense sense of grandiosity, egocentricity, entitlement, and they'll create rationalizations, they'll create excuses, they'll make up excuses. They gotta sell it, believe it, because that's a symptom of not having enough kind of positive experience of the mother to draw on, to use as like an angel that helps them to, like, you personify that good memories as a support to kind of feel some kind of support, meaning loving memories support, to get back on track. So if they're missing that, so narcissist was missing that. Narcissist never had a mentor. He always rejected his soul, echo. Okay, so that's the disembodied soul. Okay, so his feeling self. So the mind of the narcissist myth. So the myth is like the mind of a traumatized psyche. A person with a traumatized psyche. The myth describes the mind of a traumatized psyche. So he's got the grandiosity. Narcissist looks into the pool of water. It's all he sees is him. Oh, I get better light this way, don't I? Hey, hang on. What if I do this? Let's see. What's the battery doing? Hey, lesson for me. Yeah, I gotta be careful with the battery. 38%. Okay, we're almost halfway there. Once the battery's charged, I'll have at least a good hour, roughly an hour, without the laptop. So we were talking about the stinger personality patterns, right? So they can't mourn losses because they don't have the psychic structure to mourn losses. The psychic structure needed to mourn losses is what's called differentiation, separation out of the fusion with the mother. They never got that. They're married to mom. They've identified with mom. They're fused with mom. They don't have a self because they become the mother. They rejected themselves. The self is outwardly. They gotta get back to self and then differentiate by forgiving the mother. Then they can get a floor for sadness to stand up. So they don't have the psychic structure to accept losses. So if there are losses later on, hence the contempt and the sour grapes attitude. So that's complicated grief, aggravated grief, the derailment of the grief process, pathological nostalgia, melancholia, etc. So they won't admit losses. So one of their slogans is "My greedy, your greed." That's a barbaric attitude. The mind of a traumatized caveman. My greedy, your greed. Something like that. So, and some people have that slogan in life. It's on YouTube. There's a famous short seller who says that. He's trying to sell it. I couldn't believe it. Oh my God, that's a very traumatized brain to think something like that. And to be inflated and grandiose and try to sell it and look important while doing it. You see, there's a real investment in false self. Yeah, and the interviewer didn't know what to say. He was kind of stunned, like, oh my God, there's something wrong here. He didn't know how to say it. There's just something wrong. Like the Rise song, there's something wrong. If you say something like that, that's just wrong. That's not played now. That's somebody right beside me. Are they right beside? Oh yeah, I got a couple right beside me. Okay, I'll play it later maybe. Okay, what else? The stinger personality patterns. So they don't want feedback, don't trust, cynical, of course, grandiosity. They become curmudgeons late in life. The reason they become curmudgeons late in life, because they got to keep on feeling the grandiosity, but they're getting older and older. They're going to be reminded of losses again and again, so they're going to be more controlling to not be triggered of loss, because if they're controlling, they don't experience micro losses that can trigger a major loss, so they want to not feel any kind of micro losses, but they can't do it, so they're curmudgeons all the time. They're bitter, stingy, grumpy. So they're not elders, forget about that. They've rejected the developmental path to be an elder late in life. Only I'm okay, you're okay, you can be the one who will become an elder late in life. Because if I'm okay, you're okay, they're generative, they're giving, they're full of love. Their acts are love-based. Generativity for others. Are you kidding? Generativity? Oh my God, they're still in the greedy mode and of injustice collecting. The world owes them. They're still stuck in that greedy, envious loop. And maintaining the grandiosity, cynicism gratifies the grandiosity and the Schadenfreude, and they're in this loop like that. So the stingers are in a very negative loop. Now, the stinger personality patterns, it's not only the bully pattern or the Iago pattern, the lower functioning BPD. The narcissistic pattern can take various forms. So recently we covered the clinging vine narcissistic pattern. That's in there. It just takes a different form. The closet narcissistic pattern is discussed by Masterson. That's in there. The turtle narcissistic pattern, discussed by Sanford and Kunkel, that's in there. So there are a variety of narcissistic patterns, not just the overt garden variety, showy one, right? An example of the cookie cutter garden variety is, I think, is that Parker guy, the manager who plays the owner of the legal firm, the fictional comedy show called Drop Dead Diva, starring Elliot. What's her name? Jane Elliott, is that right? Brooke Elliott, something like that. Her boss, that guy, is a pretty typical cookie cutter, hateful guy, right? All entitled, all about him, don't care. So that's a dime a dozen kind of thing. But but the narcissistic pattern can take different forms. You can have that guy as a kind of like a ghost version of him called closet narcissism, where they bask in the glory of them, where they wish it could be them, but they just fantasize that they're them. That's the closet narcissistic pattern. The clinging vine narcissistic pattern, there's a different twist to it. The turtle one, their egocentricities, don't need anyone, self-sufficiency. The clinging, I don't have to grow up, others will take care of me, the entitlement one. And is that it? I think there's one more in there somewhere. Now the more disturbed stinger personality patterns, it's sort of out of my zone, out of my range. Let's let the professional shrinks deal with them. The criminalic area, the psychopath, sociopath, that kind of, I don't know, it's out of my zone there. The ones who say something's only wrong if you get caught, that one. That's the psychopathic one. There's a real deep, just even that thought, I feel like, oh my God, there's a real, that slogan seems to be the most, see, now we're getting into the philosophy of Marie-Louise von Franz. We have a life force to go to I'm okay, you're okay. L-I-V-E. We're moving towards I'm okay, you're okay, from birth to 3, psychological birth. If there's a trauma before that time, wherever it takes place, if it's before 4 to 5 months, it'll be worse. If it's before 18 months, before 36 months, wherever it takes place, the principle is the same. The life force is meant to move towards I'm okay, you're okay. To develop the ego, to know our true self, to express it through. We express our true self, we know our true self, but we need consciousness. When the baby's loved, he has this consciousness. The jargon is, I'll take Sanford on this one. He quoting Jung, his mentor, the ego self-access. The ego self-access, a connection, a line, access, like a vine or something. I forget that. An ego linked to a recognition. There's a link, a recognition. The link is the recognition of the totality and the true self. The ego seeing that, the person with the consciousness knowing that can express their true self through the ego, but you need the ego. So that's normal development, to get an ego, a normal ego. Right? If the baby's traumatized to that, before that point, then the life force that's trying to get to there keeps bumping up against the memory of the trauma. What you want to develop, what you want to feel? The inner critic voice comes up and says, did you save the mother? No, you didn't. Your mother wanted you to save her. She was crying for love from you. She hated you, that was her cry for love. Did you save the mother? To be loyal to the mother, you gotta hate yourself, because she hated you. And that'll only stop when you save her. Did you save her? So this is like a wall there. That's the trauma, this false belief. So this wall there, the life force is bumping up against this, well, then they replay the trauma again and again. Now, that means the life force is kind of turning back on itself. So if you take the word live, L-I-V-E, ironic, coincidentally, or I don't know, I think it's just a coincidence, an interesting coincidence. But if you take the L-I-V-E and you reverse the spelling of that word, that's all that it is. It's not some separate, invisible, who knows. It's not like that. It's just that our own life force is kind of it wants to go forward, but it can't, because the inner critic says you didn't save the mother. So you're repeating your dysfunction of the past. That's you're self-defeating, you're hurting others. That's the EVIL, the reverse of live. The person's not living. Okay, so anybody's doing something. So people with the narcissistic pattern are considered EVIL and all the other ones, right? Because they're hurting others all the time. Why are you hurting others? Why are you so cold and cruel and all this? Because the life force can't resume development. They're stuck there. Right? So the hero's journey is to lift the thorn there. And one image is in the children's film called Kirikou and the Sorceress. Little Kirikou was able to lift the thorn, and the person was free, emotionally free. They could resume development, right? Or we lift the anchor on the arrested development. Okay. So therapy is about this, facing this area, weaving a basket of consciousness to accept the feelings, to loosen things up so we can kind of get back on track of development. Maybe some people experience a major event like Kirikou in the Sorceress movie, where there's a real freeing up. I think usually people got to weave little consciousness, bit by bit, maybe it seems to be, right? Yeah. Interesting coincidence. This is by Marie-Louise von Franz. Huh? she says that EBIL just means that. That's all it means. The life force can't do its normal thing of expressing your true self. So Masters' axiom for this is self-activation, true self-activation or real self-activation is going to trigger the abandonment depression. That there's a pain so utter. Masterson calls that the abandonment depression. Everything the baby feels when he's not loved. Hurt, pain, shame, scared, rage, persecutory anxiety. It's not going to make it, screen painting, all this terrifying feelings. Baby's going to feel the abandonment depression. Then the golden ball goes down the well, repressed. Then he goes in a swoon. So he's going through the motions of life. So that's Zaz's song. If you feel like life is passing you by, that's a symptom of trauma. Face this symptom of trauma. Build a basket around it, and the feelings can come into the basket. Then we can get back on track. So Kristen Wilson says, just get to feeling. Just somehow get back on the road of feeling. Then we're okay. If we're doing the opposite, to avoid feeling, we're not making sense, and all these confusions and problems are taking place. Let's see, how's the battery? 51. So we're halfway there. Well, it's not that quick after all. Yeah, and I know it's kind of dark. I don't even. It doesn't. The visual's not too good, is it? The optics aren't too good here. It's too bad. Although I'm very glad they got this cherry blossom tree in the back. That looks nice. I love that. That's nice. Eh? That's nice. Yeah, the image of a flower blossoming, it's like the fruits of individuation. Like when we have I'm okay, you're okay, there are many fruits. When we get to I'm okay, you're okay, that's called a psychological birth. Okay. Once again, man's main task is to give psychological birth to himself. If he didn't get it naturally with a secure attachment style by the age of 3. But a lot of people are not getting it. Okay. Estimates vary, figures vary. One estimate is that in North America, 90% of the babies are not getting a secure attachment style. Roughly half of them in the stinger area, and the other half in the clinger area. You know, and we don't see too many elders, right? So, or it's there, but it's hidden because they know, right? Because they're avoiding the envy of the stingers, and the clingers are going to demand them to help them resume development. But usually, individuated people will marry other people who have a sense of self. And those marriages become like fine wine. Oh, so let's go back. So let's do a bit of the relationship. If two stingers are just buddies, there's a lot of hostility there. So the two stingers, if they're just buddies, what they do is no feelings, no relationship, no trust, no feelings, nothing like that. The deal is, we'll take turns playing big shot. You get a turn playing big shot, I get a turn playing big shot, grandiosity. If any kind of feelings between us, it's over, forget it. Utilitarian or forget it. So they can't make I statements. Stingers don't make I statements. Now related to this, in the process of this, because of all the hostility between them, there's a scapegoat hunger. So they'll agree to hate some third. They'll make up some third and say the third one, that's today's topic, triangulation. So they'll triangulate, pull in a third and say that the two are the in, the third is the out, and they'll hate the out. It keeps them, they get along this way, right? But if one stinger says, what up, you didn't call me when you said, what, you're criticizing me? You're bringing up something between us? Poof, it's over. Not useful. Their attitude is part object relating. Things are utilitarian, or forget it. They don't care about the humans, the quote-unquote more human side of being human. They don't want that feeling area. They just want to inflate their grandiosity, express their hate, inflate their grandiosity, schadenfreude. They're just stuck in that kind of more narrower area, let's say, I guess. And splitting is very pronounced, either or, all or nothing, perfect or forget it, everything or nothing. So the two stingers playing big shot together, yeah, well, we'll do that or nothing. Like it's just either or kind of thing. No I statements, no confusing things, no muddle. It's got to be easy peasy kind of thing. See, that's the mindset of the baby. When the baby's nursing, let's say the mother's doing it right. Fine, there's my mother. Baby might think. The mother's doing it wrong. Poof. Baby will say, hey, wait a minute. That monster that just suddenly appeared, like poof, that's not my mother. That's some kind of monster character. That can't be my mother. So they'll split it and superimpose on top of it like a flash or something. Oh, there's my mother. They make it up. That's called a split. So in the imagery, it's goddess and demon. So they go through life with this kind of either or mentality, all or nothing, perfect or forget it. Okay. Miriam Minerbo had the example of the woman who said to the guy, either you give me everything I want, if you don't, you give me nothing. Jeepers. I could play. Oh, we played it recently. If you look it up, yeah, you'll find it. Minerbo. Oh, better yet, it's on YouTube. Miriam Minerbo, Minerbo from Brazil. She's only got 2 little clips in English. She's Portuguese, but she did 2 little short talks in English. One about the primary morning, and the other one, it's in that one, the primary morning one. And the other one she did was also good, about the inner critic. Those are 2 good little clips. Excellent little clips. I highly recommend those 2 clips of hers. Yeah, she gets it. She understands the morning and splitting mechanism and all this. Yeah, I feel very different today. Last week I was here, I was in a pretty good mood. I was in a good space. I kind of, things were calm around. It was a Sunday, that's right, it was a Sunday. I was kind of calm. I felt in a good mood. I spoke in a more relaxed way. I had a good video, actually. I thought I had like a pretty good time almost. That video, by the way, still hasn't been uploaded. It takes almost a week now to upload one of these videos. It's very slow uploading. Like this video I'm doing now, on September the 8th, 2023. It'll probably appear on, let's say, September the, let's say 2 weeks, because I got a backload. I got the other ones. It'll appear in the middle of September. Maybe 10 days, let's say. Let's say 3, 3, 3, 9, 2 weeks, 12. At least 10 days. It'll take 10 days for this video to upload. Because I've still got 3 videos, prior ones that are still waiting to upload. So it's very slow, the uploads these days. Let's see. How's the battery go? 59, okay. If the stingers, so prejudice is very strong with the stingers. They gotta have somebody to scapegoat, to hate, so they can get along with each other. Because otherwise they'd be at each other and it wouldn't work. They'd give up, right? So they need the utilitarianism of needing each other to inflate their grandiosity. So they have a scapegoat hunger. And let's say it's a couple. Let's say 2 stingers get married. They have what's called a scapegoat hunger. All the tension between the husband and wife, they'll make one of their children a scapegoat. What they do is they covertly traumatize one of their children, make him angry. They want one of the children to express anger so they can think the child is being a proxy character for them. So proxy means when someone else feels for you, does something for you, plays a role for you, etc. So the stingers feel a lot of anger. So they fix it so that one of the children will be angry. Then the stingers covertly, secretly delight in them expressing anger, because they'll think it's their anger being expressed for them by the child. The child's expressing their anger for them. So that's part A. So the child expresses the anger for the father and for the mother. Part B is the mother and the father tag team or whatever. They team up on the child, say, look at that naughty child. Yeah, look at that naughty child. He's a bad kid, yeah. Well, and maybe they'll make some rationalization, like quote Mr. Bowen, some obnoxious, some very traumatized guy like Mr. Bowen or something. Oh yeah, it's just biology, evolution. They'll make up some nonsense. They'll make up some kind of nonsense because they're looking for an excuse to have an opportunity to express their anger on the child. So they make the child angry. They manufacture the child to be angry, so that they can have the excuse to say, we gotta counter with our anger. They created anger to have the chance to express their anger. They're looking for that. They want to make it happen. So the child is being scapegoated. Vert calls this scapegoat hunger. Today's topic is just simply triangulation. Not a helpful term. This guy, oh my God, he thinks he's so enlightened or something. This guy's upside down. This guy's really upside down. So let's just stick with Hans-Jürgen Wirth, scapegoat hunger. They have a real hunger to have a third to express their hate on. So the father expresses his hate onto the child, saying, I gotta protect myself from this angry child who's angry at me, dangerous to me, so I now have an excuse and I'm justified to be angry at the child. Mother's doing the same thing. That keeps the mother and the father together. Now the child goes along with this because he wants to save his parents, keep his parents together, right? That means that's trauma. The father's traumatized, the mother's traumatized. To scapegoat, scapegoating is trauma. See, here's the painful thing. This very traumatized fellow here, Mr. Bowen, he says, oh no, it's natural. It's in nature. It's just the way emotional systems work. It's an emotional system. You see, he's creating an excuse because he found out that if you take rats or something, he said, look what they do. They might scapegoat one of their own. And then you take a bunch of scapegoated rats, put them together, they might scapegoat one of their rats. Like, well, he said, well, that's an emotional system. Give me a break. No, we're not like that. See, that's the harm. That's the EVIL of him, I think, because he's traumatized himself. He can't know that. He doesn't accept the idea that humans have a genuine ego, are meant to have a genuine ego when they're loved in normal development, when they're not traumatized. He doesn't understand this. He co-opts individuation and distorts it and makes a new meaning for it to deny this. He's anti-psychoanalysis now because he wasn't certified to be a psychoanalytic shrink. They rejected him, right? Rightfully so, by the sounds of it. So, in normal humans have a conscious. That's why we're different. We're humans. Homo sapiens are the only ones who have a consciousness of ourselves. That consciousness was created so that each human can express their leafness. Every leaf is unique. For a human to express our uniqueness, we need a consciousness. Now, this uniqueness is from a place of I'm okay, you're okay. That's normal development. We're all one family. But when someone's traumatized, they don't understand that. So in his revenge on humanity or whatever, this Mr. Bowen guy, he says, oh no, forget about psychoanalysis, forget all that. It's trivial, not important, it's decorations or whatever. The real issue is, look at the rats, look what they do. Oh my God, are you really going to compare humans? Come on, this guy is he had an agenda. He joined some kind of hate cult. I don't know what's going on with him. He joined some kind of real and everyone says that about him. They say, yeah, he's very secretive. What's the secret? Because he joined some kind of disturbing thing that's related to how, unfortunately, shrinks don't know how to heal a certain percentage of people who develop the psychopathic kind of area. We don't know how to heal that yet. But this, now, we're talking about the 40s and the 50s and the 60s. So we're talking, I don't know about now, if psychoanalysis can help in that area or not. But at that time, his shrinks didn't know how to heal him. Right? And then he had a big quarrel with his shrinks and the supervisors. And I said, look, you're trying to bulldoze with your grandiosity, and you're not wanting to analyze this. You can't be conscious of yourself in this. You don't accept egocentricity. No, it creates this excuse from biology. And then, okay, no, you can't be a shrink if you're going to go down that road. Let's see. So in his revenge, he found like a military-linked kind of thing, and they supported him in his work. And I noticed a lot of his followers have that similar sort of hateful, prejudiced attitude. So luckily, I noticed now in the year 2023, his work is not popular. The views on YouTube are very limited. So that's good. Yeah, that's a good sign. That's a very good sign. You can feel there's something wrong. You can feel it. A lot of people were frustrated. What do you mean? What do you say? What do you mean? I'm trying to understand you, but you're not. You're hedging all the time. You're implying something, and then he's very tricky in his little innuendos and things. That's a sign that if he's able to frustrate other people, then others can be proxies for how he doesn't know that he feels. So if others are feeling what he's feeling, he can think that he's back in the nursery where mother's feeling what he feels, i.e. he's one with the mother. Now, if a baby's one with the mother, and the mother knows what the baby's feeling, the mother will soothe the baby. So all of these tricky things that people do, games people play, duplicity, lies, tricky things, like this guy here, and so many others. Okay. The ultimate, shall I compare thee to an onion? The ultimate agenda is, in the cry for love, everything's love or cry for love, they do a thing called projective identification. Get others, coax others to express and feel what you're feeling, but you don't know you're feeling it. Get others to feel it. Then you can think in your unconscious fantasy that if they're feeling exactly what you're feeling, that you're back in the nursery, mother's feeling what you're feeling. That means you're one. See, they're looking for the fusion with a good breast. But nobody in the present can be the good breast. But they're actually looking for that. They're demanding others to feel what they're feeling, thinking that finally mother will soothe them. But there is time. Nobody in the present can be the good breast mother for the past. But these games people play, it's an attempt to do that. So they prod others, coax others, goad others, annoy others, tease others, trick others. All these games people play. Eric Burns' book, Amy Baer's book, all these books that list the logical fallacies book, the red herrings and straw man arguments. Best way to tell a lie is to include a few crumbs of truth in it. Yeah, like he's doing here actually. And the half-truth is the father of many lies. The rhetoric, propaganda, advertise, all these tricks and all these kind of trance logic, hypnosis, suggestion, bullying, all these kind of various tactics that people use. Their agenda ultimately is, okay, theory, get others to feel the abandonment depression that you don't know that you're feeling. Then, in your fantasy, if they're feeling what you're feeling but don't know it, in other words, if they're a proxy for what you're feeling, if someone's expressing your feelings and you don't know you're feeling that, but you created them to feel it, the fantasy is you're merged, you're one, you're fused, back in the nursery, fused with the good breast. Now mother's going to provide the soothing. But the person in the present can't invent a time machine, take you back to the nursery and change the past. You can't change the past. So doing these kinds of things is a mirror to know that fusion didn't take place with the mother. Okay. The stinger personality patterns, they have a problem with the fusion. There's a problem with the symbiosis. Either it wasn't there, or the baby was prematurely ejected out of the mother-infant fusion unit, or the baby's in it, but it's negative. There's a problem with the fusion. Babies need a positive symbiosis, not a negative symbiosis, not an insufficient symbiosis, or not a missing symbiosis. So if there's a problem in that area, okay, then all of the harmful things people are doing in the present, it's to get others to express and be fused with you back in the nursery, thinking now you're back in the nursery with mother who's going to soothe you. Again, repetition compulsion. When there's trauma, we replay and recreate. Trauma was, mother, hi there, I'm your little child here. I need fusion with you. I need paradise with you. Fusion, paradise, symbiosis. Mother says no, ouch. That's a record. We carry this record everywhere we go, in every new situation. We try to recreate that. We try to relive it. Hey, you in the present, feel what I'm not feeling. Make me feel that we're one. So what they want is the oneness, right? They want to get that oneness. You feel what I'm feeling. At the same time, I don't know what I'm feeling, but I want you to feel it anyways. So I can think that we're one. So I can think that if we're one, I can then think that we're back in the nursery, one with the good breast, and I'm going to get soothed. I love you, you're perfect, now change. That's the cry for love. So all these games people play, duplicity, the stingers do, very lying, a lot of, okay, Amy Bear calls it, yeah, the charming, but it's the harming. The charming in service of harming. Something like that, Amy Bear's book. So of course the stingers are masters at being a little tricky in their charmingness, because they're fused with the mother. They can act like the mother. They've got trance logic. Their antenna is too sensitive or something. And they're in this kind of fusional state, trying to attract people into their, that's called the tar baby. I don't have it here, but there's a quote about the tar baby story, where Bear Rabbit meets the tar baby, and then the Bear Rabbit is tricked in by the tar baby, and the Bear Rabbit is stuck with all the sticky tar on him. It's a metaphor for this kind of thing. It's the symbiosis. It's this issue of the unmet symbiosis. So the lesson is, for the stingers, that if they're doing this kind of thing, why are they doing it? Why are we doing something other than I'm okay, you're okay? And normal, natural, in other words, anything other than I'm okay, you're okay is trauma. If it's not love, it's trauma. It's a cry for love. If someone can recognize that, that's Zaz's song here. Why don't we play Zaz's song here? Let's play Zaz's song here. Because that's sort of the basic message of Zaz's song here. E boule pareni. We'll take like a little musical break as well. So she's saying that we want to love life, but if we feel like we're not loving life, that's a symptom of trauma. Can you notice this as the presenting issue? Can you at least notice this presenting issue? so that song is basically saying the same thing. Everything's love. If you're not loving life, well then you're stuck in the past with the cry for love kind of thing. And then it's up to you to decide to become a detective. Story medicine doctor. Psychological detective. Let's see, how's the battery? Let's see. Hold on a second. 79. Alright, let's wait a bit. Maybe I can use this. Hold on a second. Let's get a pillow here. Let's finish up with the clingers then. If the clingers get married, and they're conscious, they want to develop. They want to resume development. They'll go to therapy together. They'll make I statements together. They're on the developmental track. They know that they have their soul, but it's frozen. The stingers, forget all that. I'm just going to play infantile God, become a short seller, make a quick buck. Like they're very cynical. So in yesterday's, was it yesterday? Yeah, yesterday. No. A couple of days ago, I played Kristen Wilson's speech called "Ooh My Soul" about the short sellers, Homo short sellicus, playing infantile God to make a quick buck, destroy the planet to make a quick buck. And they don't care because the mother didn't care from the baby's perception. Maybe we can do this thing about maybe one construct in the healing area is Robert Bly's story of Iron John. Okay, one of the key scenes in there is that the person is looking for their golden ball. Now, dreams and myths, fairy tales and dreams and myths, religious stories, they're like dreams, so there's no time. So you can have one scene, another scene, there's no time. So one scene was the guy's feeling self, the embodiment went zoop down. Okay, so the dog went down the lake, kind of, it got pulled down, unconscious water. So that's like a symbol for the repression. This image of repression, it can be a golden ball down the well. Miss Core on the field gets yanked down. Joy and sadness getting zooped away. It can take a variety of forms in myths and fairy tales. Okay, then another scene is the person's looking for they're in the forest, so they're facing the unconscious, looking at patterns, interpreting, writing down their dreams. Okay, free associating. What does this mean? Observing yourself. So they're in the unconscious, owning their projections. They're in the unconscious. They find their golden ball. Oh my God, but it's locked in a cage. Where's the key? It's under mother's pillow. What does that mean? So, mother, pillow, under. It's dark under the pillow. Unconscious, shadow, mother unconscious. The mother's unconscious. The mother tried to meet her unconscious needs using the baby. And that's why the person's golden ball isn't locked in a cage. The key, the secret, the knowledge, the key to all this is under mother's pillow, meaning her unconscious. The mother tried to meet her unconscious needs using the baby. So this is a huge area for both the stingers and the clingers. Yeah. So let's run through them quickly here. If the mother's traumatized herself, she has a record. On the record, there's a memory that when she was a baby, she had a cry for love, her mother shamed her. New situation. Mother has a baby herself. New situation. She's going to play the record of how the mother shamed her. But this time, in the stinger mode, she plays the shaming mother shaming her. She projects her as a child onto the baby. The baby will stand in for her because she doesn't want to feel the pain of reliving how the mother shamed her. So she puts in the child. She uses the child to meet her unconscious need. to replay the record with the fantasy that anytime, anywhere, whenever anybody replays the record, the fantasy is they're going to change the past, undo the past, correct the past, heal the past. So she's trying to meet her unconscious needs to get a better past herself. So she's using the child to this end. How does the child feel by this? How does the child feel when the mother shames her because the mother wants to reenact what had happened to her? Of course the child's golden ball is going to go down the well, locked in a cage. Case scenario B, some mothers have a baby and say, at last. They can fix it with the baby, to brainwash the baby. Okay. Minerbo says some mothers abuse their power. They're corrupt. They abuse their power. They have all that power of the baby, that sacred trust. They abuse it. They use it. They abuse it. So what they do is, all right, baby, I'm going to use my power to brainwash you, called menticide or something. How? When the child has needs for autonomy, mother withdraws. Baby's crying, upset, mother's there. Baby only gets love when he turns to her in pain. That makes him dependent on her. He never has the love to separate from her. So the child will always be dependent on her, turn to her. So the mother's fixing it so that she'll always have somebody who will need her, turn to her, be there for her, listen to her, respond to her, respect to her, not let her feel alone, not let her feel abandoned, always have someone who will be by her side, kind of thing. So she's using the baby to meet her unconscious needs for someone to take care of her, to please her, do something that she wants, be seen, respected, etc. How does the baby feel by this? How does the baby feel being parentified to take care of the mother? Of course the baby's golden ball is going to go down the well, locked in a cage. Case scenario C. Because sometimes the baby's crying because the connection wasn't made, the paradise wasn't made, the baby's needs aren't getting met, so he's crying in pain. Mother, I need your needs. What does the mother do? Oh, look at that. How do you like that? My baby doesn't like me. My baby rejects me. My baby hates me. How does the baby feel by this? The mother, as a child herself, believed her mother hated her. Flies that hating, rejecting mother image onto her own baby when the baby's crying and thinks the baby's rejecting her. Of course the baby's golden ball's going to go down the well, locked in a cage. Case scenario D is sort of a continuation of C, where in the case of C, where the mother then fights with the baby. Oh yeah, I'll show you. So the mother expresses her anger at her mother, seeing the baby as her mother rejecting her. Of course the baby's very pained by this. His golden ball gets locked in a cage, down a well, down a tunnel, down a cavern, where the light has never shone. Okay, that's deep repression. Okay, now let's backtrack. Let's imagine the baby has a voice during these 4 case scenarios. Case scenario A. Mother, what are you doing here? You think I'm you from 20 plus years ago? I'm not you from 20 plus years ago. What, you think I'm you from 20 plus years ago, and you're gonna act like my grandmother who shamed you, and you're gonna shame me to replay how your mother shamed you? What's going on here, mother? I'm your child. I need your love. I'm not you from back then. And on top of that, you're gonna act like your mother shaming you, but seeing me as you, so you can replay the record of how the mother shamed you. You're gonna shame me to replay the record of mother shaming you. Mother, could you please look at the calendar? What year is it? I'm not you from 20 plus years ago. I'm not you from 20 plus years ago. Mother shames the baby. Baby thinks, oh my God, is my mother psychotic? So psychosis means the letter's sent, but it arrives at the wrong address. Mother has a feeling and doesn't understand the reality of the presence. So we're talking about from the baby's perspective. From the baby's perspective, let's have some empathy for the baby here. Let's have some empathy for the baby here. From his perception, he may think the mother's psychotic. The reality is the baby's her child who needs her love. But she's treating the child as if the child were her from 20 plus years ago, and is going to shame her own child, think she's back then 20 plus years ago, or she plays the shaming mother, shaming herself, but herself seen onto the child, hence shaming the child. Baby's going, what's going on here? Case scenario B, where the mother parentifies the child. Mother, what are you doing here? Hold the phone. I can't be the good mother that you needed 20 plus years ago. You're parentifying me. You want me to take care of you 20 plus years ago. I'm your child who needs your love. You want me to be a missing good mother that you needed back then. What are you doing, mother? Child thinks, oh my God, is my mother psychotic? Case scenario C, where the baby's crying. Mother, why do you think I hate you? I don't hate you. Why do you think this? I'm crying because you're not meeting my basic needs. I need your love. It's not there, and I'm crying for your love. And you're going to say, I hate you? What a delusion. Are you psychotic, mother? In case scenario D, the mother says, oh yeah, oh, you blaming me, baby? Yeah, I'll show you. Oh my God, this is really over the top, mother. Are you psychotic? So, and you're hurting, and you're going to insult me, insult to injury. I'm crying, and you're going to hit me or treat me badly, even worse, because I'm crying. What's going on here? I'm your child who needs your love. I'm not my grandmother who rejected you. So the child thinks his mother's psychotic. Lawrence Hedges says that in the psyche, there's a rupture. He calls it a psychotic pocket into which the golden ball goes down. So one guy calls it a basic fault, like a fault, and the crack, and the ball goes down the well. The ball goes down the well. The well is in the forest, and the golden ball is locked in a cage. So it's very repressed. It's very hard. In the Pied Piper of Hamelin, this was seen when the mountain opened up and the children got locked in the mountain, and then the mountain closed up. But that's a metaphor for repression. So back to Emily Dickinson's poem, there's a pain so utter, it swallows substance up, and then one goes in a swoon. Zaz's song, feeling that life is passing you by. Okay. Now, this psychotic pocket, that swallowed up the golden ball, the associations there are very tight. In effect, it's encapsulated. These bundle of memories in this some kind of encapsulated form, if we were to personify, like create a voice or an emissary voice for this, we could call it the inner critic, the self-saboteur, the superego, or whatever. Okay, it's going to come up. So later on, when a person wants to do something good for themselves, that's going to come up. Uh-oh, what do you want? Well, the voice says, did you save the mother? All those times the mother was using you, you were supposed to save her. Did you save her? Okay, this is part one. Now I'm referring to something said in part one. So that's the self-saboteur, that's the inner critic or the superego. This higher voice reminding the person that they didn't save the mother. So the mother had a cry for love. The baby was supposed to love the mother to the point where she'd be healed, so that she can then return and love the baby. No baby can do that. This impossible task is called the inner critic. The inner critic is never satisfied. You can never satisfy the inner critic. You can trick it and can't make deals with it, those kinds of things, but you can never really Edmund Burglar has some thoughts about this as well, yeah. Edmund Burglar, one of our mentors, has a whole book on this topic called The Superego, that one. Another poem is there, A Great Hope Fell. The baby had a great hope for his mother. That hope fell. You heard no noise. The wreckage was within. O cunning tale that let no witness in. That's the scarecrow in The Wizard of Oz. The loss of the feelings, that's the Tin Man. The two being like that, the person feels disembodied. That's the cowardly lion. So we got to be like Dorothy and line it up again. Line our mind to our heart, get back in the body. That's the hero's journey. That's the monomyth. That's the hero's journey. Joseph Campbell calls it the universal monomyth for everybody. We're all homotraumicus. The hero's journey, or the second journey in midlife, is to line up the mind, heart, and so we're back in the body and we make sense. I'm okay, you're okay. If we're not in that attitude of doing that, we're not making sense. Things are convoluted. It's trying to communicate to us. It's trying to tell us that there's trauma. So back to Zaz's song. If you feel like you're not loving life, there's trauma. So it's a good song by her, yeah, called E Boule Parini. Let's see, how's the battery? Okay, 94, we're getting there. Yeah, I want to get some better light. Actually, I'm cooling off a bit. It's not so. Yeah, the cooling is a little better now. Yeah. Maybe what I can do is read today's quotes and then walk around a bit. Yeah. I gotta be careful when I walk around. I've only got about an hour before the battery shuts. So my issue is anytime a video suddenly shuts down due to a battery issue, I lose the whole video. It's betwixt and between. My camera says it's there, but it doesn't play or upload. But it says it's there. It's like it's half there, half not there. I can't upload it. So this battery thing, I've lost so many good videos because of this. I've lost a few good videos because of this battery issue. I'm just looking at the song list if we should play a song here. What's this one again? Oh yeah. What about Birch Bark Letter? Okay, let's play Birch Bark Letter by Willie Mitchell. Willie Mitchell. He also sings Call of the Moose. I Promised You a song about his friend, Big Policeman. About his personal tragedy story. The one he has a song about identification with the aggressor called "Killing Your Mind." Some indigenous people are so traumatized, they think like the aggressor now. He calls that, his song about that is called "Killing the Mind" or "Killing Your Mind" or something like that. It's been a while since we played that one. Typical love song, right? Birch Bark Letter. By the way, yeah, as mentioned in part 1 briefly, when the baby's laying down neurocircuitry with the wire, with the mother, and it's frozen, it's called unfinished business. That's why later on, when a person meets somebody who reminds them of the mother, it triggers up and it revives the exciting feelings, the electricity revives up of the oneness with the mother, because now you got your mother again. Okay, so the partner is seen as an emotional reincarnation of your mother. And you're spellbound, you're transfixed, you're love trance, puppy love, infatuation, it's love at first sight. What's happening is that person in the present reminded you of the mother who caused those painful wiring. Now you're back there thinking, okay, now it's going to continue. Now I'm going to get the love. Hence, I love you, you're perfect, now change, please. So it's interesting about that the person in the present just triggers the wiring with the mother. Hence all the chemistry and emotionality of the baby with the mother. That's why such strong feelings about this, right? But the partner is not the person in the past. So there's going to be this kind of conflict because the other one's doing the same thing. You change, no, you change. Nobody can be the good breast that the other one needed in the past. So they're going to leave. That's called unrequited love, transference love. Yeah, this is called transference love. It's not regular love, right? And then, oh, you promised, you broke my heart, you're a heartbreaker, mistreating your heart, you turned to stone. A dramatic one is the song "Turn to Stone." No, the girl said, I don't cause you to turn to stone. I don't make you emotionally freeze up like that. You already had that with your mother. I just reminded you of your mother. You chose me so you can be reminded of the pain with the mother. So we repeat. Let's see. Another. Let's see. Okay. Got another guy right beside me. He's going to use his phone. If he starts yapping on his phone, I'll move to another spot. No, fair enough. I'm the one who's yapping on the phone, right? Maybe I'll jump into the quotes and see how it goes. So this is just, okay, I'm relieved to say this. This is going to be part 3 of 3 of this so-called family systems theory from the perspective of this Bowen community. At the first, part 1 and part 2 was mainly by Richardson. I didn't mind him. He writes clearly and simply. I didn't know the full thing about it. And then for this video, I looked into the source of it. You know, oh my God, ouch, whoa. You know. So I'm going to keep his quotes to a minimum. He takes some basic, ordinary self-help concepts and creates this bombastic, grandiose, cult-like, impressionistic demeanor about him, that he owns it all, he created this, he invented this. One of his lackeys says, he's like Darwin, he invented something, he's so important, and he's got everyone swooped up in his. I don't find him charismatic, I don't find that at all. I only saw like a few little minutes of him, but it was enough to really give me the impression of it. So I'm not a fan of this guy, but although so I'll just extract out what he stole and re-own it, right? Kind of thing. So why don't we begin here? So this is mainly from him and a couple of his lackeys there. Yeah, so he's got, yeah, so him and two of his lackeys guy named Kerr and Titelman. I didn't mind Titelman. He was okay. Yeah, so this will be Bowen and two of his lackeys, Kerr and Titelman. Titelman, is that right? Some of his other lackeys, I'm not going to bother quoting from them. Oh, they're over-the-top, obvious sociopathic types. There's a kind of a there's an undercurrent about this whole guy, and he's in a real battle to one-up everybody. His mother. He's kind of he's a bit like the Moby Dick story. He can't let go. So Moby Dick is the persecutory breast, right? The bad breast. But when you project your rage, you think the bad breast is the persecutory breast. I think he's in a mode like this, and he doesn't care that he's lying. He just wants to bombastically convince you he's so special and all this. And he's got the credential of being a medical doctor, so he has some kind of respect from his basic background. And he has some kind of immunity because of his connections and all this, it seems. So I'm just going to pluck out the self-help ideas of it. His underlying philosophy of the biology and the evolutionary biology, this grandiose, I know biology, I understand evolutionary biology. This whole bombastic area, I'm going to scrap all that. It's pretty clear to me, personally. Humans have a consciousness. Those little rats or whatever, they don't have a consciousness. They have their hierarchy, they're mammals and all this, and I guess to manage stress, maybe they act in a certain, maybe they scapegoat. I don't even know. Maybe it's just cherry picking. Maybe it's in the city. Maybe in the countryside it's not like that. I don't know. But he's too focused on looking for some kind of underlying energetic, emotional field that we're all part of. It's a very over the top. It's like Jung saying there's an unconscious, there's a collective unconscious. Nonsense. Individuals have an unconscious. So okay, that's it. And a bunch of people, there's no separate magical, separate unconscious. That's different from the individual's unconscious. We behave from our unconscious. Now, everyone's got an unconscious. If 10 people have the same kind of trauma, they may think alike. That's not some separate group mind. That's just the commonality that they share the same kind of disturbed philosophy that they create from the trauma. It's not some external, invisible group mind that's controlling their troubled philosophy. So that kind of avoidance on his end to maintain his grandiosity. I got to scrap all that. So what you're going to hear is just sort of the basic self-help stuff. Okay, so this is just a normal stuff we already know already. Okay, so we deal with anxiety. Everybody has anxiety, right? So we can emotionally detach. We can put our focus, we can gossip about others. Two friends get together. If they feel anxious between themselves, they may gossip about a third. There's your triangle. So that's the one way to deal with anxiety. But the common pattern is the original family triangle, right? Parents and the first child. And the child is being used by the mother. So usually if the mother's not happy with the husband, she'll turn to the baby to meet her emotional needs. She'll partnerify the baby, parentify the baby. Okay? And then the father says, well, I'll get my freedom, fine, go ahead, I'll be free then. Because of the conflict between the two of them. So the child is scapegoated to please the mother, and the father says, fine, I'll take my freedom, kind of thing. So this is the primal mother complex issue. He says, no, this is a universal pattern for all. No, only dysfunctional people have this. Only traumatized people. Not everybody has a mother complex. Not every mother abuses their children like this. But he thinks, oh, every mother abuses it. No, nonsense. I think he's got a real grudge. I think he's transferring his personal template onto the world. He sees the world through the lens of his traumatic mind, and he's got a disturbed traumatic mind. And just from the little that I saw of him, oh yeah, it's pretty obvious. Very passive aggressive. There's a real seething, hateful quality about him. He's got a grudge against everyone and everything, I think. Okay. So let's run through these. So, in other words, what I'm saying is, I'm not going to include his animal philosophy that he thinks he discovered or something called emotional system, emotional unit. All of it, and all of his phrases are cloudy. Right? Anyways, that's part of the trick to induce trance logic. You see, another thing about the sting of personalities is that the baby identified with the aggressor. The baby was hypnotized. He was confused with the mother. Adopts the mother's voice as his voice. So if a self-help cult guru type of person confuses you with some convoluted jargon, what do you mean? What do you mean by that? That triggers that now, when you're triggered, what he suggests and wants, you'll think it's your voice. You've identified, because you want to please the guru the way the baby wants to please the mother, by imitating the mother. This is called trance logic. So in this whole area, the stingers, so okay, again, let's back up. When the baby's traumatized by the mother, he's got to have the mother. The only way to have the mother is to be her. So the mother's mind, the mother's attitude will be his attitude, his mind. Okay? So this is already a prototype, template, stencil, way of operating, way of thinking, way of being. That's already set in. Okay? So manipulators will co-opt this. First, they'll trigger it up. The way to trigger it up is to say something confusing. Make some convoluted jargon. Triangle. You mean like math? What do you mean triangle? Love triangle? You're already like a little confused already. The moment he does that, then he says, oh, I believe fill in the blank. Oh, I want to please him. Oh, I'll believe it too. So he's tapping into that to get his lackeys to believe what he believes. So that's part of the quest. A game like that, so that's one of the games people play. That's part of his quest to get oneness. He's looking for the good breast for the past. Not noticing that somebody's doing this, that's a symptom, a sign, a signal that you didn't get the good breast. You're not supposed to still try to get the good breast. Just notice the symptom that you didn't get the good breast. Talk about it. Feel safe with somebody to talk about it. And then mourn the loss. That's called primary mourning. So back to Miriam Minerbo. See, I think that's a good quote we have from Miriam Minerbo, Minerbo, from São Paulo, Brazil. It's on YouTube, that one. It's in a podcast called Talks in Psychoanalysis. She did 2 clips there. I recommend both of them. They're short, 20 minutes each, kind of thing. Okay, so this is from one of the lackeys here. This might be one of these, hired consultant. I don't know. Okay. Oh yeah, the tip-off, because they're sponsored by some organization that's notorious for the plundering and the pillaging. I don't know. The parents. Okay, hold on. The parents. Oh, so here. Okay, so I'll start off on a positive note here. These parents do see their child. These two parents do see their child as a separate and distinct person. The mother's supposed to do that. When the mother has the baby, she's got to go, what a mystery here. Nature's greatest miracle. This child is distinct. He's a little person in his own right. Okay, the great spirit. Everyone is unique. This child is unique. Life's longing for itself. Okay. Not her possession, not her property. She's not allowed to brainwash the child to serve her. No, she's got to respect the personhood, the personness, and the personhood of their little child. If the mother does that, obviously if she does that, the father's going to do that, because you marry at the same level of health, emotional health, right? Their high levels of differentiation allow the three of them to be in close contact with little triangulating. So in healthy families, the three of them can meet together, and there's no triangulating. There's no mother who pulls the son aside and whispers to the son, "Oh yeah, don't say that about him. Did you know what your father said to me?" And she complains to the son about what her husband did, and wants to ally and hook in and get the child on her side and alienate the father and create a setup where, okay, son, I'm the allied parent. Your father, we're going to alienate him. That's called triangulating. So the mother is dealing with her anxiety by not talking directly with the husband. All that pain and anger she has with the husband, she takes comfort from the child. That's called triangulating, to use his phrase, right? This leads to the mother complex. If the mother uses the son like this, he ends up with the mother complex. If they're too fused like this, if the mother creates too tight a fusion with the child, and he's not getting the love from her, the mother doing this is using the child to meet her needs. The child needs to be seen as a person by the mother. The mother's saying, the mother's not doing that. So the child ends up with the mother complex. If it's a daughter, she ends up with the Electra complex. So in normal development, the three of them can be together, let's say, and there's no triangulating. There's no child and mother against the dad, and the dad detaches. Fine, leave me alone. You two quibble, you two entangle yourselves in this mess. Let me watch the game or something. That's the painful anxiety of a dysfunction. Oops. It's too bad I can't. I'm sort of how's that? Still got, oh, okay. Blocked it, right? If I do it this way? Alright. So no triangling, no two gang up against one, that kind of thing. That's normal development, right? Okay. A two-person system is stable. So mother and father. A two-person system is stable as long as anxiety is low. But when it rises, it automatically draws in the most vulnerable third person and becomes a triangle. So if the husband and wife are normal, they can discuss things between themselves. If they're dysfunctional, one of them is going to hook in the triangle, and the child will feel special by this. So the father will be excluded, the son and the mother will be united, ganged up against the father. That's called triangulating. Because the mother doesn't know how to deal with her anxiety, because she's traumatized herself, doesn't have the memories of the mother soothing her so that she can have a psychic structure called the soothing interject, or the holding interject, or the internalized good object, or object consciousness. In normal development, when the baby's loved, they have a part of the brain called the soothing interject. So now that's called the primary triangle, the parents and the first child. This triangling activity can take place into the extended family. So now the child can go to the uncle and buddy up with the uncle to triangulate against the uncle's brother, their father. So now you got interlocking triangles. So in the family tree, you got interlocking triangles. These two against them, those two against them, those two against this triangling thing, right? Interlocking triangles can shift anxiety from an original anxious dyad to the most vulnerable individual. So the child is the most vulnerable. The discomfort, so here's a key point here. The discomfort will not disappear. The problem doesn't magically poof away. The mother abusing her child like this doesn't heal her, doesn't correct her. Because all it does is cover over. She just covers it over. She just paints it over with a magazine smile. So it's just a mask or something. She's just masking it. The triangle stabilizes anxiety in a twosome. So the anxiety between the father and the mother, the anxiety is stabilized at the expense of the victimized child. So the child is scapegoated in this end. Okay, now I include this point here. He does a little bit of knowledge psychoanalysis. He says here, psychoanalytic theory postulates the Oedipal triangle between both spouses and the child, but it's awkward and inaccurate to extend this narrow concept into the broad view. Okay, so there's some truth to that, because people are confused about the Oedipus story. The Oedipus story is that Oedipus's mother is named Jocasta. When Jocasta uses her son, to comfort her, in the mythology, that's the marriage, the inner marriage. The boar queen gobbles up Valabon, and he becomes her. They become one. So in the story, the wedding, that's not the son's wish. It's the opposite. No, the mother. It's more accurate to say the mother wants to marry the son, if you want to think it in those superficial terms, but it doesn't mean that. When the mother uses the child, in the unconscious, the self-representation blurs in with the mother representation, and they're one. That's like an inner marriage. That's like a fusion within. The mother created an inner fusion in the child. The son didn't want that. The mother created that in them. The son is the victim of this. Okay? So that's called the Jocasta complex. The mother doing this is said to be using passionate mothering, or Jocasta mothering, or the Jocasta style of mothering. The son is sucked into this. Okay, that's just a natural phenomenon. The child has got to survive, so he'll be her. That's the inner marriage kind of thing. Okay. So because people don't think in those terms, the way pop culture is presenting it, and the way the disturbed, perverse translators presented it, it's to confuse people away from psychological interpretations of myths and fairy tales, to confuse people with this. So he's right on that end. At the same time, he's doing the same thing. He's one of them as well, right? So again, this phrase, the Oedipus complex, means mother complex. It's not a literal external thing in the outer world. It's ridiculous. No little boy wants to walk down the aisle with his... That's nonsense. This is absurd. There's nothing to do like that. It's a metaphor. Myths and fairy tales are metaphors. Metaphors for internal going-ons in the dream world, in the dream Alice in Wonderland dream world thing. The memories, images of memories of self, images of memories in the other, and how it appears in there. In the beginning, there's fusion. The child is supposed to feel safe to separate. If he doesn't feel safe, that means the mother's using the child. Then the child is still married to mom within. That's the wedding. Okay. Now there's no third to pull him out. Right? So there was no. That means there's a missing father. No, the son didn't do the thing they say in the story. It's just the image that there's no father. That there's an absent father. That's all it means. That's all it means. It's just there wasn't a presence to help the child attached to if he felt safe enough to leave the mother. He never. So there was a missing father. That's all it means. So the story presents it that way. It just means it's just the two of them. Mother uses the baby. Now the missing father might be because the mother detached from the father. Maybe she married him for some economic reason or something, but detached emotionally from him. So the father was poofed away, like he's absent kind of thing. That's all that means. The son didn't cause that. The son didn't cause that. See, so it's all convoluted, it's twisted, it's upside down. So that's why I don't use that phrase because of that. So we could just use this, but it's a common pattern. It's a common pattern. If babies aren't loved, they can't separate from the mother, so they're married to mom within. There's even a book called When He's Married to Mom. So the son has the mother complex. If it's a daughter, she has the electric complex. This complicated negative fusion between mothers and daughters, she has the electric complex. When emotional tension in a two-person system exceeds a certain level, it triangles a third person, permitting the tension to shift within the triangle. So the anxiety kind of disperses at the child's expense, right? So the child is being used and exploited and shamed, and he's expressing, so he's scapegoated. So he's talking about the scapegoat hunger. If the parents are stingers and they're traumatized, they have a scapegoat hunger. That scapegoat hunger means the child was triangulated into the twosome, and now there's a triangle where the third one, the weakest one, the child, is being scapegoated. But the term triangle isn't that useful. Like, you don't immediately think in those terms, right? You're better off with sticking with psychoanalysis, the mother complex. Is the Mutter complex, the Mutter in The Many Loves of Dobie Gillis. In the comedy The Many Loves of Dobie Gillis, there's an episode entitled The Mystic Powers of Maynard Krebs. The shrink there, oh, Mr. Maynard Krebs, he has the Mutter complex. The other one was better. She said he has prenatal trauma and emotional stunning. Emotional catatonia. Prenatal trauma and emotional catatonia. So that's interesting. And that's why he's so sensitive. So Maynard was considered very sensitive, intuitive, because he had that early on babyhood, intrauterine trauma. If the baby's traumatized in the uterus, they may later on be very sensitive, like super sensitive to others and feelings. They can pick up things. So Maynard Krebs was like that, right? So one guy said, oh, it's the Mutter complex. That's not enough. The next shrink said, it's prenatal trauma with emotional catatonia. I mean, the stunning, right? The petrification, the freezing, turned to stone, unreal, wooden, or emotional catatonia. The mother and son so the simplest example of triangling, two people get together and they gossip about a third. That deals with the anxiety between the two of them. Richardson's exercise in the last video was, why not get the two of them to just make I statements together? When this happened, I felt this. I was reminded of something in the past. And share that. Old fear, unmet need, feelings. Share some of that. And make I statements together. Stingers don't want to do it. They don't trust. They don't want to name it. They don't want to feel it. So they scapegoat. The third, right? It's not a universal thing. I totally disagree with this guy here. He has some angry agenda. To hate, and he's bombastically using aggressive techniques to have his little following or whatever, and to still engage in a campaign to divert people away from psychoanalysis to a defense against psychoanalysis. Now, I don't mean that family systems therapy in general is wrong. I just think this guy's version of it, I think is problematic, personally. Okay, we'll go to one of the lackeys here. The mother and son limit contact. See, I'm a little triggered by this guy because I just saw a clip of him before coming out here. I should have waited a bit or something, but I wanted to do this video, so it's I'm still sort of processing it. I think he's the kind of guy that would want to be like a military commander, those kind of. I think he's in that sort of area. That's my first impression of him. Put it that way. I'll update it if I know more about him. But I saw a little bit from another lackey. Oh boy. No, two other. I don't have their quotes here, but there are two other lackeys. They're over the top, in your face bully pattern types. Right? And Bowen mentored one of them, and the other one mentored another one. Those two that were mentored in that line there. Oh my God, is this the pattern here? Well, that's over the top here. Maybe there's some events going on, so I don't know what's going on. Okay, let's do the next one here. Mother, what is it? The mother and son the mother and son limit contact with each other to avoid the anxiety associated with their interactions. Okay, so this is called emotional cutoff. You detach and avoid, emotionally avoid. Okay, so emotional cutoff, avoid, emotional avoidance. He uses the term emotional cutoff. Let's just call it emotional avoidance, emotional divorce, whatever. The emotional cutoff reduces the anxiety potentially generated by their interactions, but it doesn't resolve their vulnerabilities to each other. Emotional cutoff only makes the intensity of the attachment grow dormant. Fair enough. The son emotionally cuts off with the hope of finding a better relationship elsewhere. Predictably, he picks women more like his mother than he would like to admit and replicates the unresolved attachment. Okay, the female does the same thing. So we have an old quote about this by Edmund Burglar, one of our mentors. He says, if you think that by leaving your mate and you're going to find someone else, he says, your inner conflicts will faithfully follow you into the next relationship. So divorce won't help. He says, first face your inner conflicts, then you save your marriage. That's all it means. So Brody calls it unfinished business. The wiring that got laid down between the son and the mother, it's painful. So the guy thinks, well, I'm going to not see my mother because it triggers all this up and she's not going to change. So fair enough. He's going to avoid all that pain. But he thinks that by doing so, he'll marry a healthy woman. He's not going to be attracted to a healthy woman. He's only going to be attracted to a woman who reminds him of the mother, hoping that the partner will be a better version of the mother. Hence, I love you, you're perfect, now change. That's all we're talking about here, right? So he says, it lies dormant. The wiring is set there. You're just avoiding the issue, right? But in intimate relationships, you want to pick up where the wiring left off. That's unfinished business, because you want a proper wiring. You want a normal wiring. You want a wiring that says that mother loved you and you were loved by the mother. I'm okay, you're okay. And then your life force can go forward to the ego where you express your life force, and that's healthy live. And you enjoy the present, L-I-V-E. But in the trauma, the L-I-V-E turns around on itself. So it's a mistake to think that if you emotionally detach from your dysfunctional family, that you're going to magically have a better relationship that changes the wiring. It's not going to happen. Number one, you're not going to be interested in a healthier person. It's too boring. It's not exciting. You're only excited if somebody reminds you of the mother who gave you the painful wiring, because then you can be back there hoping to get the love that you needed. That's all it means, right? The next one here. Okay, next one. The mother was securely in the over-adequate position. Okay, so she's the impinging, the engulfing, that's all it means, right? The mother was securely in the engulfing, impinging, over-adequate position to the child. She thought that the child belonged to her, mother's rights. That's what she thought. And the baby, of course, was helpless and hopeless and powerless. But the mother could now control, right, her own immaturity by focusing on the immaturity of her child. With her emotional functioning now more stabilized in the relationship with the child, the mother became a more stable figure for the father. Aha. So now maybe she can have a better relationship with the father, right? The father could better control his relationship to her when her functioning didn't fluctuate so rapidly. He tended to establish a more fixed position of aloof distance from the mother. Okay, we can call this the interdependent triad. The interdependent triad. The child was the keystone to all this, the scapegoat. The child was the keystone to all this, right? The child is holding the mother's hate. Through the relationship with the child, the mother was able to stabilize her own anxiety and to function on a less anxious level. With the mother's anxiety more stabilized, the father was able to establish a less anxious relationship with the mother. Okay, that's a bit of a roundabout way of saying it, but that's fine. The family system is such that the mother realizes if she's going to have any kind of cooperation with the husband, she needs to be as calm and easygoing as she can to get some kind of cooperation with the aloof husband. So she gets this calmness by using the child to soothe her. She makes the child be a teddy bear for her. Mother expresses her hate on the child. The child is present, helpless, still present. Unconditional love. Baby offers unconditional love. Why doesn't she get a puppy or something? Why does she got to do it on the child? So anyways, the child is still there. Mother feels the support of the child's presence. That calms her down for a bit. In that calmed down place, maybe she can have some kind of interaction with the aloof husband, let's say. So that's a severely dysfunctional triangle. Next one. The problem in the client was a product of a symbiotic relationship with the mother. Okay, the problem in the client was a product of the symbiotic relationship with the mother. I interpreted symbiosis very broadly to mean both the positive and negative over attachment between mother and child. A developmental arrest, which at one time was a normal state in the mother-child relationship. Or we may describe it as a state of two people living and being for each other. Of one being sick for the other to be well. Mother makes the baby sick so she can feel well. That's a negative symbiosis. So that baby's golden ball gets locked in a cage when she does this. Okay. So, anything to add to this? So symbiosis is a normal phenomenon. The baby needs this symbiosis with the mother. A positive symbiosis. That's normal. Then at 4 to 5 months, he hatches out of it. 4 to 5 months to 18 months, the world is my oyster phase. Okay. Mother doesn't rebuff him for that. Allow his grandiosity. 18 months, it dissipates mainly, and then he's more of an explorer. Mother does communicative matching, creative improv. Okay. The child, by the age of 3, felt that it was okay for him to leave the mother and know himself. Then he got his psychological birth. Some mothers sabotage this to brainwash the child to be dependent on her because she doesn't want to feel alone, and she likes the idea of having somebody to complain to, let's say, for example. The emotional immaturity of both of the parents, their incumbent anxiety, the emotional divorce between the parents, the projection process whereby anxiety is transferred from mother to child, and the mother-child symbiosis as expressed in the overfunctioning, underfunctioning reciprocity, right? So engulfing mother, absent father, right? Demanding, clinging mother, that's the overfunctioning, and the father is underfunctioning, right? So he's aloof and distant. Are the features of the process that he described as the interdependent triad, or another term for it is the emotional triangle. You see what he's doing here? He's transferring a traumatic emotional triangle and wants to say that all triangles are like that. No. No. He's insistent and wants to demand and wants to induce or make other people believe that everybody's in a dysfunctional, stinger-like triangle. No, not all mothers do what his mother did, let's say. Not all mothers abuse their power over their baby. Some, yes, not all. He's saying it's a pattern, it's a basic thing. No way. No way. If a mother loves her daughter, okay, and allows that daughter to hatch out of the oneness between the two of them, and allows the daughter to spend time with the dad and all that, not to the point where the daughter is seeking fusion with the dad. See, here's the thing. If the mother doesn't offer fusion with the daughter, you see, the daughter may then transfer that to the father. Father, can you be the good mother? The father can't do that. She's enraged at the father now. That's unfair, right? Because, the father cannot be the good mother. But some daughters might transfer. It's like a last hope kind of thing. Gee, I didn't get the safety with the mother. Father, can you provide? But the father can't provide the proper feeding. Only the mother can provide the feeding and the oneness during the feeding time. The father can't offer that. So if the daughter didn't get that from the mother, she may transfer that onto the father and be enraged at the father and hate him and have impossible demands on him and have a complicated thing going on there. And then, now the only legitimate anger maybe that the daughter has with the father is that the father didn't please the wife to make her feel comfortable to offer a positive love for the child. Or another version is, if it's on the edge, like the child is one with the mother, but maybe she needs like a little boost to break out of it, to relate to the father, but not at the expense of symbiosis, not in the attempt for symbiosis. Right? So part of this is that the child had hoped that the father would protect the daughter from the abusive mother. Right? So, but fathers always usually say, mother knows best. And how can the father change the mother and make her be a loving mother? What can the father do? This is a sacred dyad between the daughter and the mother. How is the father going to magically convert a traumatized mother and make her be a loving mother? How could you do it? He can maybe make her a little more comfortable, maybe sometimes try to protect the child from the abusive actions of the mother. I don't know, there's some, it might help, his efforts might help to some degree, but ultimately the father cannot magically convert a shaming mother into a loving mother. But on some level, the child hopes that the father can at least sometimes protect her from the abusive mother. Do something, give the child some hope, I don't know, some protection, some kind of buffer there, some kind of protection. In other words, a lot of fathers are getting the slack for what belongs to the mother, but daughters have identified with the mother. They're protecting her, they become her. Right? So the father cannot be the mother. So I think some daughters maybe need to forgive their fathers and take it up to the source. But they can't, because if they confront the mother, then they're going to feel like they had nothing. A baby would rather be one with an abusive mother than not have any mother. So it's very hard for a daughter to separate from the abusive mother in their psychic memory system. It's very hard to differentiate out of that, right? Only through consciousness, weaving a basket, theories, ideas, turning points, awareness, reflection, philosophy, brainstorming. These quotes can weave a basket, so we can build a basket of knowledge that gives us a certain strength to hold our feelings in the process of saying, no, I'm not going to imitate my mother, I'm not going to act like her. Yes, I could be angry at the mother, and then realize that she was traumatized. Okay, then forgive her for her trauma. What are we doing here? Yeah, it's okay, good. Just want to make sure I'm not bothering anyone. What's the time yet? 9 o'clock. Almost 9 o'clock. Okay, we got 2 more here. Oh no, sorry, 3 more. Okay, old triangles, new players. Same script, different cast. Right? Describes certain functioning positions, patterns, and issues in triangles. So just to be clear, this term triangle by this model means the child is scapegoated to soothe the mother's anxiety so that the mother and father will stay together. So the child is scapegoated. That's what they mean by triangle. Now, this dynamic takes place in other areas of life. For example, 2 friends gossiping about a third person. That's also an emotional triangle. Okay. Old emotional triangles, new people. Describes certain functioning positions, patterns, and issues in emotional triangles that are passed down in a family through the emotional process of interlocking triangles. Old emotional triangles, new people in the present, also refers to the way new individuals enter new relationships that very frequently replicate the old relationship patterns they have tried to shed, and in turn they often become a part of an interlocking triangle. So we replicate and repeat and replicate, okay, through intergenerational trauma, the transmission of intergenerational trauma. So this is also known as intergenerational trauma. And if somebody draws one of these fancy geneograms, if they're lucky enough to know their family tree, you can see all the little triangles going on. Those 2 scapegoat that third, those 2 scapegoat that third, those 2, and then he cuts off from those 2, and then you can see these little patterns going on. So this is the intergenerational transmission of emotional triangles. A very good source of inspiration is the Kelly Clarkson music video for the song Because of You. Because of You. She stopped it. She noticed it, faced it, and made a therapeutic turning point. She changed it. That music video is very good for this healing. It's an image of healing, basically. She saw the past, was aware of the past, okay, That's represented by her holding herself, the younger child herself. So that's a symbol for giving ourselves consciousness. So that image of her holding her own hand, that's an image of giving ourselves consciousness and feeling safe and having the basket of knowledge to face the truth of the past. And then it's a therapeutic turning point once we know it. So once we get story, narrative medicine, it's a therapeutic turning point. We repeat again and again until we find story. Once we get story, we stop repeating. If the essence of mental disturbance in man is the inability to face himself, what is the essence of emotional disturbance in the chimpanzee? All right. So here's where I'm triggered. Here's the trick, I think. I'm putting this in to call him out. He says, if you got a bunch of monkeys together, that pattern, there's an emotional system amongst them where some of the chimps might scapegoat one of the chimps. So there's a pattern there. So why do we say that when people do this, it's because of an inability to face himself? You see? That's the trick. It is the issue. If we can face ourselves, we heal this, like the song, Kelly Clarkson's song, Because of You. I wish I had it here, I'd play it. Well, it's probably copyrighted anyways, right? But he says, he's cynical, he says, as follows. It could be that a model of human behavior that emphasizes man's uniqueness will ultimately prove to provide the best understanding of man, but okay, Mr. Bowen did not think so. This traumatized man did not think so, and tried to develop a model that was consistent with the processes that governed all life on the planet. Give me a break, right? You see, he's trying to say it's like genetics or something, or some biological genetics. He's trying to tap into this kind of thing. So then later on you can sell pills. That's the ultimate area. No, it is psychological. It's not some invisible, unknown, mysterious collective unconscious. Bowen's theory recognized those features that make man unique, but that uniqueness was not of interest to him. So his basic campaign is, forget about psychoanalysis. Look to the chimps. There's a pattern. This is the pattern that's everywhere. No, it's not. No, it's not. And I wouldn't... I don't think, for example, elephants scapegoat one of the elephants. Do they? In the savannah, if there's a bunch of elephants, do like oh, there's an alley cat. Huh? Oh, he's a scrappy. Wow, an alley cat just passed by. He looked like a real tough, rugged kind of cat. But he was still individuated. He still had that confidence in his walking, right? The obvious example is not every child is scapegoated by the mother or the father. Only traumatized humans do this. It's not a universal for everything and everybody. That's what he's trying to peddle. Because if he can get away with peddling that, then you're going into the physiology of the brain, biology of the brain, and then you can sell people I think that's where he was going. This contempt for people. I think he's a troubled guy. And so I read somewhere how other people kind of diplomatically and politely was saying the same thing. Okay, this is the last one here, and I'll give this one a break here. So this next one, and this last one here, just sort of a general, like an overview, general kind of thing. That if an individual can know themselves, things get better. But if they don't know themselves and just keep repeating, things get worse and worse for them. It's a kind of regression. Right? So can we apply that individual phenomena in a society case scenario? So maybe it's fair enough to say in this general broad sense, it seems to be, right? If more and more people are conscious in society, we'll make better decisions, we'll better curriculums, better programs to reflect that. You know? But if we're not conscious, then we're not going to create better programs. Right? Just as an individual, if he's conscious, he'll make better decisions, make better choices for himself if he's conscious. Similar to the society kind of thing. But what is society? It's just a bunch of people, right? It's not a separate mind. Okay, the symptoms of societal regression include, an increasing divorce rate, a more litigious attitude, more prejudice, less principled decision-making leaders, maybe more crime and violence, more drug abuse epidemic, an increase in bankruptcy, and a focus on my rights, not responsibilities. Okay, Mr. Traumatized, chip on his shoulder, Bowen, predicted that the current regression would continue until the pain stemming from this exceeds the pain associated with knowing ourselves. So I think he's just parroting. He does a lot of parroting, this guy. He's just repeating. Most of what he says is just repeating, twisting it, and saying he owns it, right? So I think a lot of people might say this, that we get better. A therapeutic turning point is that dysfunctional behavior, the secondary benefit by it is more painful than the pain of trying to heal ourselves. Then we turn around. So a lot of people would say this. Most self-help authors might say that this is like a turning point, right? When a person recognizes that, fill in the blank is harming them, and whatever secondary benefits they get, they think, oh my God. It can turn around where, okay, now there's no secondary benefit from this. The dysfunctional behavior is the loyalty to the mother. It's the attempt to save the mother. Okay? The dysfunctional behavior means loyalty to the shaming mother. Still trying to mirror her, still try to be the good parent for her. It doesn't work. And it's hurting us in the process of doing this. So at some point, when we realize we're not going to get mother's love by doing this, isn't it better just to give it up and do something good for ourselves, knowing we're not going to get mother's love anyways by doing it? So why don't we just face the pain of taking ownership of our own lives. Okay? So that's maybe what I just said is one version of this point here. So that's Morton Keeson's point, that being dysfunctional means you're still trying to save the mother, you're being loyal to the mother. Why? Because you're still expecting to get her love. Let's be realistic. A man in his, whatever, 40s or something, right? And let's say the mother's 70, whatever. There are no time machines. That 70-year-old mother is not going to apologize or make amends or confess or anything. Of course, it would be helpful to confront the mother and say, I didn't like what you did. She'll probably shame the person for that. Then you know the pain, how hard it is to try to save her. Because you accepted the emotional abuse from her. Did that save her? You're still caught in the old babyhood place of trying to save the mother. Now maybe it is worthwhile to visit the parents, before they pass, kind of thing, to really make it clear what they were like, you know. So Robert Bly makes a point about this. Robert Bly says that we got to confront our parents and say, come on, tell me the truth. Why'd you do this? What happened? I didn't like that you did this. And if they use guilt-tripping tactics, how dare you say this? If they use guilt-tripping tactics, it'll feel familiar probably. You've been doing this. That's what you did to me back then. I brought it up now so I can know what you did to me back then, because you're still doing the same thing. So it can be therapeutic turning point that way. But I think I think Keeson is right. I think if you realize that dysfunction means on some level you think that by being dysfunctional you're going to win mother's love. But there are no time machines. So it's ridiculous. So why stay dysfunctional? Take what you got, take the damaged self that you have, and rebuild from there. Go from there. Yeah. How are we doing now? Let's see. I think this is charged up. Yeah, this is fully charged up. Yeah, let me go to the captain's chair and relax a little bit. This chair here is not very comfortable. Okay, so what do we do here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 quotes. So my hope is that at least one of these 13 quotes may have a bit of interest. If anything, ironically, he's pointing out, making people remember this issue of how anxiety is dispersed in the family by, gossiping about the other one, or the mother says to the child, I'm the allied parent. Your father, we're going to alienate him. So maybe this topic does sort of bring up some of those old kind of memories, right? That's a positive contribution in that area. But his deeper philosophical motivation to tap in to the human emotional life, that is somehow the same with the emotional life of fill in the blank. See, I think he loses it then. He totally loses it. It took billions and billions and billions of years for a hominid, us, to develop consciousness. We're way, way above that. Yes, cats have an emotional life. Yes, chimpanzees have an emotional life. No one's denying that birds have an emotional life. Elephants have an emotional life. That's clearly about that. But just because there are some examples that we can see that if the environment is such and such, and it may have been created by man, maybe man distorted the environment, maybe before Homo traumicus disturbed the environment. Maybe when Homo traumicus came on the scene 10,000 years ago and that disturbed things, then the animals had reactions to that. But maybe before we were traumatized, when we were Homo naturalis, maybe the monkeys were more like the bonobos or something. Or a mild, friendly version of that. And maybe if there is some kind of hierarchy with the chimps or something, maybe it wasn't that harmful to anyone or something. Maybe it's man's intervention in destroying the forests and confuses things up, makes people panic or something. But see, we have a consciousness. When the baby's loved, it's I'm okay, you're okay. And we're all the same species. We're all one, right? We're all one family. Whereby there's no triangulating. There's no triangulating. Like the first quote here. These two parents could see their child as a separate and distinct person. These three, with their high levels of differentiation, sense of self, allows them to be in a threesome where no one is scapegoated. In a threesome, no one should be scapegoated. Now, yes, fair enough, in the band Triumph, maybe Rick Emmett was kind of squeezed out a little bit. That's why he left, right? But that's because we're Homo traumicus. And maybe, rock stars aren't fully differentiated. Yeah, and one guy is sort of one of them is sort of clearly a bossy type, right? Or a controlling type. Yeah, I know. Yeah, okay, that's true. I remember in one of the documentaries, one of the members would be sadistic and tease and belittle and shame Rick Emmett. Right there on the camera, you can see in the documentary. There's a clue of it right there. So whatever anxiety Mike would feel towards Gil, he would take it out on Rick. And Rick said, I'm leaving. I'm not a fan of the Rush band, but the guitarist and the singer are buddies, and the drummer passed away earlier. Maybe he was scapegoated, I don't know. The Santos band, I don't know what happened about them. What other trios do we know? What other trios are there? What about the guys with the beards? Those three guys. What about them? The legs band. What are they called again? I'm not a fan of them, but are those the original three members? Are they still together, the three? If those three guys are together and they're the original three members, ironically, they may be more differentiated if the three of them stay together in a friendly way. Because you think about it, 50 years together, it would only be healthy if no one was scapegoated during that time. So if that's the case, that might be an example of how it's not a universal given that when three are together, one's going to be excluded from the other two. Only in trauma do we see that, because there's anxiety when there's trauma. Abandonment depression, that's called massive anxiety. When the baby's traumatized, he ends up with massive anxiety. Yeah, scapegoating. A scapegoat hunger. I still prefer Hans Jürgen Wirth's idea about scapegoat hunger. It's clear, you're scapegoating the child. It's vivid, we understand it. Once you say triangle, what do you mean? Emotional triangle. Okay, that's a little better. What do you mean emotional triangle? Well, one is in pain to please the other two. The illness of one to make the other two feel superficially better. Is that what you mean? Okay, so you got to take some work to explain it, right? But if you say scapegoat, the child is scapegoated, it's pretty immediate what it means, right? Well, let's go to the captain's chair, yeah. Okay.